Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another episode of Heartless Chat. Remember, once again, if you like what you're watching, hit that bell on the bottom, like and subscribe. Today, we're here with an extra special guest all the way from Winnipeg, Manitoba. You might know him from Vancouver, BC. He was a big nightclub owner in Winnipeg, also was the founder of Unity Underwear, and now in the restaurant business, Nik Maharajh.
I know the ops, man, I'm getting money and I'm flexing.
Welcome.
Thanks for having me.
Well, man, last time we met, you were in Vancouver, BC. You've been busy with a lot of travel since. Tell us more.
Places have been around the world. So I've actually been anywhere in about a year, but before that I was traveling a bit more often. The most recent place I went to is actually Korea and Bali. So my younger brother's living out in Asia. He's now in Bali, or sorry, he's now in Thailand. He was in Bali when I went to visit him, but he speaks fluent Korean. So we went and met with him in Korea. My girlfriend and I went to met with him. Spent a little bit of time there, then flew down to Bali. Spent a couple of weeks there and then came back. So that was the last place I came. But yeah, Vancouver, I was there for living there for about 9 months and then ended up coming back. That was during COVID.
Which city do you love more, Vancouver or Winnipeg?
I love them for different reasons. It's kind of hard to answer. So as a city goes, Vancouver is far nicer. Obviously, you're by the ocean. The mountains are in plain sight. The food is incredible. The air is like cleaner. It doesn't smell bad. But yeah, but as of like the people go, the main reason I actually moved back was, well, one of the main reasons I moved back was because of the people in Winnipeg. Uh, in Vancouver, it was a lot more like cold. People were not as friendly and not as receptive to you if you're friendly. It was also a lot harder to make friends, whereas Winnipeg, it's very like people tend to be friendlier. If they see that you're friendly, they'll like introduce you to their friends and stuff. It's easy to like start networking and connect with other people in Winnipeg.
Oh, yes. In Winnipeg, it's so easy to talk to people on the street. It's not exactly friendly Manitoba as they frame it, but if your car gets stuck in the winter, there's at least three people behind your car pushing it out of a snowbank.
It's even the simple things too. Like if you open the door for somebody, they'll say thank you. Then in Vancouver, they'll give you a funny look instead. It's like simple little things like that.
Well, my man, as a huge entrepreneur, and I've seen you on the grind for, since I known you, for it's been about 5, 6 years now. What is the biggest motivator in your life, and who do you look up to the most?
Biggest motivator is kind of like the vision I see in the future. I'm somebody that kind of does a lot of visualization practices. I journal a lot. I write down exactly what I want to happen. So I guess in some way it's kind of like manifestation, but I don't like using that word. It's kind of cliche. But yeah, so I very much visualize what I want to happen, and that's kind of my main motivation. As of people I look up to, I think the person that has like the most it's easy to name some people that have like some sort of level of success that you want to see, but I think when you're trying to look up to somebody, you have to also consider the rest of their life. So, I mean, you could want like Elon Musk's money or whatever success, but the rest of his life is kind of like not something you want to idolize. Like, he has kids that he loves, but there's like a lot of broken past and a lot of like relationship issues and whatnot. So, somebody I would name more is Naval Ravikant, for example. He made his money. He only has to work when he wants to. He has a family, a wife, philosopher on his own terms. So all in all, the whole picture of his life is something that I think is a good model.
Yeah, I totally get that through manifestation. I mean, you can't just manifest things into your life. I do think it helps, though, with telling yourself your goals, right? When you have your goals and you lay them out on the table and you tell that yourself day after day, I believe it does help a little, but that's not the only factor leading to the success. You know, you got the manifestation doesn't get you up out of bed to get you to your goals. You got to have that continuancy. You got to have the follow through. Manifestation is just a small part of it, I believe.
Yeah, it's almost like once you have the picture of where you want to go, you can reverse engineer how to get there. It's kind of like an algebra equation in that sense, I guess. You know the answer. You need to figure out what part's missing, and then you can figure it out and get there. So that's kind of where I see that it helps me. If I know where I'm going, it's easier to know what road to take.
I find people from Manitoba that have made it the farthest usually started out with hardships or some type of struggle. Did you ever experience anything or a hardship that motivated you to be where you are today?
I'd almost say I'm still going through the hardship right now. Like I think COVID kind of pushed a lot of hardship onto me. I went from like you mentioned, I had a nightclub. I was owner at a nightclub. I had a restaurant. I had my entertainment company. I had Unity. I lost two of those and had to sell the other two. That was one part of the reason why I went to Vancouver is because I kind of lost everything and it was like kind of a way to start fresh. So the motivation of like the hardship, I think is just, I mean, the best way to look at it is like if you read somebody's biography, there's always the hard parts in life. It's good to see that like everybody has gone through the hard parts. So hardship is not like unique to you, and kind of knowing that is a good way to push forward and kind of keep going.
That's such a shame. 441 was fantastic. I remember my visits there. It was a great time. The two levels always had awesome entertainment there. 441 was the crown jewel of the nightclub in Winnipeg. So you did an amazing job with that.
Thank you. I can't take full credit. I had amazing business partners, some of which had a bigger part than I did, but yeah, it was a team effort for sure.
So I have this little story for you. There's this, I don't know if you ever heard the story about the two wolves. Have you ever come across it?
I'll know once you tell me the story.
There's these two wolves. One is angry, is bitter, is full of resentment, and the other wolf is on its path. It's motivated and it's happy. And they constantly fight each other. They're always fighting each other, right? It's kind of like a metaphor for inside your head, your thoughts and your feelings. The little boy asks, "So in the end, which wolf wins?" And the grandma said, "Well, the wolf that wins is the one that you feed." Have you ever had points where you're just going to say, "I'm going to quit, this is it," or the resentment to the point where, this isn't going to work, should I move on to the next things? Which wolf did you feed?
I ask myself the question of should I do something else borderline every day for the past 10 years. Um, it's something that you kind of get like, well, at least I get it regularly. It's not necessarily doubt, but it's almost like, well, some of it might come from motivation because you get new ideas and you see this like awesome new shiny thing that you want to jump on. So you kind of get it from that side. But then sometimes you're going through tough times and you're like, why am I doing this? It's like, is the result, is the potential outcome even worth the pain that or the hardship that I'm going through right now? I mean, in the end, I kind of don't like quitting on if I tend to quit if I'm working for somebody else, but if it's a business that I own my own, I hate to quit. I don't like giving up on it. Because then I know that like I want to make sure that I put everything on there to keep going. So the reason I kept going in most of my businesses, even when some of them were failing, was because I there was always like another possibility of it making it work. So I would have to lose complete hope to actually feed the or to let the wolf that says to give up win.
Determination is a great thing, but it could also be a downfall. I had a buddy that traded Forex and he said, "I'm going to make it. I'm going to make it." And he used to lose and lose, but then he'd win. He'd say, "I made 5,000 today." I'm like, "Well, how much did you lose yesterday?" And he goes, "Oh, I lost 3 yesterday." And then he goes, "Oh, I lost 10,000 today." And I'm like, "Oh, bro." Like, he's like, "But don't worry, don't worry."
The high leverage trading like that is kind of like um I'd almost say it's more gambling than anything. It's like educated gambling. I've done it the same. It's the same thing. I don't want to like. I think when you're working on a business, it's a bit different motivation than when you're doing a bit of like trading. And I say that as somebody who's done both. I've done forex trading. I've done high leverage crypto trading, stock trade, everything. I've lost. I've made hundreds of thousands doing it, and I've lost hundreds of thousands doing it.
I'd rather keep my faith in lighting the candle at church than watching the candle on the chain.
Yeah, yeah.
If you were to start your whole entrepreneurship journey all over again, what would you do differently?
I'd probably work on a different problem. I've been in the hospitality industry for a while. I actually kind of before I signed the lease for my restaurant that I just opened, I swore off of it. Um, And that part of the reason is that I believe there's way better opportunities and way more interesting problems to work on. So if I was to start it over again, I probably wouldn't work in the same industry that I'm working now. I would have taken like a leap of faith in the beginning when I was younger to start working in a different industry.
I almost like to think that you were built for hospitality, though. Like the interactions that I've had with you, the interactions that you've had with the public, they've all been positive interactions. You know, you're a great people person. So I kind of wish to seeing you succeed. But I think the thing with 441 is that all the mandates were just so stacked up against you, right? Like to pay that rent at the nightclub is astronomical. Like how, and they weren't even really doing anything to help the people in small businesses.
Yeah, yeah, I think that part of me is always going to be in the hospitality industry. I that is the kind of person I am. You're right, but it's also what I know. The reason I say I'd try something different is because I've invested so much time into hospitality, and now it's harder to make a shift. I will make a shift once my restaurant can sustain without me. But with that being said, like if I could have started 10 years ago, I would have probably jumped into the tech industry, which would have probably led me to a lot different paths. So, I mean, in the future, I do plan on starting something different, but I do always want to have a restaurant or a coffee shop or like a lounge where it's kind of like my spot. So that's like where I go. That's where I bring my friends. That's where my friends know where to go. But I just don't want it to be my focus in the future is all. And then yeah, with the mandates, yeah, with the club, we were kind of handcuffed. We had asked our landlord to wait and for to we had not missed rent for 9 years, not been late for rent for 9 years, and then we asked him if we could wait a little bit to see to see if the government was going to step in to help, and he said no and gave us an eviction notice on April 1st. So um yeah, just kind of goes to show what kind of landlord we were dealing with.
At least you didn't go without a fight. I remember your just desserts that you gave them in the end. I'm not going to share that here, but I do remember that.
That wasn't me. I can't take credit for that.
That was hilarious, though. That was absolutely funny.
I had business partners who were a lot more invested into the club than I was, one of which who was there for the previous 3 or 4 clubs before 441. And he was the one that hadn't missed rent, and he was a very good tenant, so he felt like a little bit like, I guess, backstabbed or treated poorly by somebody who he fed. I guess really, if you think about it, probably over $1 million in rent.
In your periods of self doubt, what was the biggest things that helped you overcome?
I'd go back to the visualization. I know where I want to go, um, and I know that if I stop, I won't get there. So you just really can't stop.
With such a business guided mind as yourself, you know, the whole SWOT analysis, the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, what do you find helps you separate yourself from the competition when it comes to threats? What do you bring to the table that is unique to you that is not quite to anyone else?
I think I'll use the restaurant as a specific example. Um, my business partner and I didn't really we weren't really planning on opening something, but we were meeting with people nonstop who kept asking us to do a place that people above 30 could drink at and have some food and whatnot. Um, and so we were kind of getting insight into what the demographic we like dealing with wanted off the bat. And I think that's kind of what I'd say that's what our upside is above everybody else who has a restaurant, is that we're very much connected and up to date with the demographic that we're targeting. I don't think there's anybody else really in the city that's as like connected with the demographic as us together. So uh, we're able to make changes quickly. We're able to not only like follow the trends, but create the trends if we want to. And that kind of gives us the edge, at least in Winnipeg. It would not be the same story in Winnipeg. Oh, sorry, outside of Winnipeg, but in Winnipeg, we have that advantage.
Winnipeg is probably, besides Montreal, Winnipeg is the spot in Canada for the diversity in food. You can get everything. The food is amazing. Actually, I want to know a little bit more about your restaurant. I heard you had partnerships with Deer and Almond and Caillou Grill. I heard that you've been getting a lot of interesting partnerships. So I want to know more about your restaurant.
Yeah, so I'd actually classify it more as a lounge. We really wanted to establish ourselves as a restaurant first because we have background in nightlife. So we positioned it as a restaurant so that people would know us as a restaurant. So when we introduce our nightlife, people still see us as a restaurant as well. I mean, if you're anywhere outside of Winnipeg, you'd call it a dinner club. I guess you probably know about that now, but people in Winnipeg, if you say dinner club, they have no idea what you're talking about. But um, yeah, so the restaurant itself, when we were creating the menu, we reached out to Mandel from Deer and Almond because my business partner had opened the restaurant with him. And he made some of our items for us. We reached out to our friend Calvin, who owns Caillou Grill, the food trucks, the food cars, and a Caillou Bocce and a few other restaurants. Kind of like all of them in the Asian restaurant demographic. And he made us some of our items, like our pad thai, which is delicious, and the black sesame seared tuna, a lot of the more like Asian inspired dishes. We also have Calissimo making our for our espresso beans. So I wanted our espresso martini, which is very like trending right now. They have the best espresso, so we got it from Calissimo, just in my opinion, the best espresso in Winnipeg. Yeah, so we have Calissimo for Calissimo's espresso beans. I wanted the best espresso beans for our espresso martinis, which are trending right now. And then the same thing goes with the gelato. It's from New Cheese Gelato, which is the best gelato in the city. And we also have cake from Cakeology, which is debatably the best bakery in the city. So, uh, same with our beer, all local beer. So, uh, the reason that is we wanted to kind of take a combination of everything that we like the most out of Winnipeg in the restaurant scene and put it into one restaurant, at least as much as we could, while still making it make sense on some level. So, um, yeah, that's kind of what it is. Like Commonwealth, the name is a combination of republics. So the way we see it is that each place we're taking from is kind of a republic, and you're putting it together into one spot to create like a cool environment that people can drink and eat and get like a best of like everything.
Where is Commonwealth located in Winnipeg?
They're located at 456 Main Street. So 456 Main Street is 2 blocks north of Portage, Maine. It's right next door to the Pal, Parlor Coffee, a couple other great places. Yeah.
Right beside that new high rise in the Good Life. So after you go to Good Life, you can go get a great bite to eat at Commonwealth. Go check it out.
Yeah, once they open up Portage, Maine, it'll be a very easy walk. So by next spring, it'll be take you 5 minutes. So
I would dodge traffic on Portage and Maine
help the cars.
to come check out Commonwealth. I love Winnipeg for the food, absolutely.
Yes, sir.
All right, Nick, we're going to jump into some dating questions here. You ready?
Let's do it.
You're currently in a relationship. If you feel comfortable, would you like sharing? How did you meet your current partner?
We actually met way before we started dating. I met her at a club that I was promoting at when I was like, I guess it must have been 8 or 9 years ago now. And then yeah, I saw a funny story. I asked her out. She told me to pick her up from school. I asked her what school, and then she said MBCI because she just turned 18 and she was going to a high school. So I said no, that's too young for me. Um, but then 7 years later, we kind of ran into each other again. And we hit it off and have been dating ever since.
I love when the past brings special people back to you.
Yeah, it's almost like a sign that it was not the right time, and then she came back when it was, kind of thing. So,
With starting new relationships, what are some challenges that you have faced to finding the person that you are with now?
I mean, when starting relationships can be tough because it depends what place you're in when you start the relationship. I've definitely started relationships out of um like when I'm not ready for the relationship, for example, would be one example way. Or starting in a relationship when I'm somebody who's completely different than I was 3 months prior, and somebody completely different than I was 3 months after I started a relationship. So maybe I just wasn't ready for the relationship again. So I think each relationship though does teach you something. And it kind of gets you like one step closer. It tells you what you do want in a partner. Maybe you liked this and this about this person, and then maybe you didn't like this about that person, and then you kind of like narrow it down. And as you start to date more people, you have a really good idea of what you're looking for and what you're willing to bend on and what you're not willing to bend on. Um, and that's kind of how I got to where I am now with my girlfriend. So I knew what I wanted and what I didn't want, and yeah, she's great. So
I believe that constant change is stimulating, right? I believe it keeps things interesting, it keeps the relationship interesting. I think to change is to grow, right? And to find someone that can accept your change is a really great and healthy start to a relationship. If someone just wants you because of the person that you are 3 months ago, things are going to get really difficult when those 3 months pass and they say, oh, you're a different person.
yeah, I think a lot of that comes too from like clear communication. So something I did a little different with my girlfriend than what I did with others is that I was pretty clear right off the bat of like what I was looking for, but also the changes that I'd potentially be going through. So I knew that I would be starting a business soon, for example. And then I let her know how I work when I'm working on a business. Like a lot of time will be occupied on that. I might be more stressed some days. I might be really happy some days. I might randomly have a week off because there's nothing to do. But then I might work 120 hours a week for 4 weeks after that. Um, so yeah, I was very clear, and then she kind of knew what she was getting herself into. So when there was changes happening, one, she knew when to like kind of let it happen. Two, she knew when to kind of like communicate her concerns, and three, she was just ready. So it was like it was a lot better way to like be able to let that change happen naturally too.
I find in a lot of ships with relationships, there's movers and shakers, right? And their partners have a hard time with navigating their needs and finding the needs that they actually want and need to continue being motivated. But there's a lot of those people that just say, oh, like, you don't find the time for me. You know, you're not really interested in me. I can't really help you. You're too busy. You're not paying attention to me. What does supporting you through your successes look like?
For me, what support looks like is so part of it is like helping me do things that I don't have the time to do. So I guess my love language itself is kind of like acts of service. So I'll give you an example. When I was opening the restaurant, my girlfriend came by and the restaurant was pretty dirty because I guess the restaurant before it was closed for that before us was closed for 18 months. So my girlfriend put some gloves on, helped me clean because I didn't have the time to clean at like the restaurant, scrubbing the stainless steel down on the bar top and help bringing stuff and just like kind of filling up random things that I wasn't noticing, like bringing soap dispensers and stuff like that. Just little things that like I wasn't really paying attention to. But then when it coming to also making sure I eat, like reminding me to get some food and stuff like that. Or just like when I'm getting really stressed out, should be like, don't forget like what you're working towards. Like you knew this would happen kind of thing. You knew you were going to get stressed out about this. This is just expected. You just got to get through this. So a lot of support was just like part of it just being there for me, and then part of it like helping me out when I needed, and then like pointing stuff out to like making sure that I stay on track at the same time. Yeah, for me, support is really just like times are going to be good at sometimes. Like occasionally, times will be good. And I want you to enjoy those good times with me. Even when times are bad, you can't. I don't want you to make them harder on me.
Definitely, definitely. Teamwork makes the dream work, and behind every strong man is a strong woman.
Yes, sir.
With relationships come hurdles and hardships. Besides communication, what are some tips and tricks to help you get through the hard times?
I think for us, something that's definitely helped is like we both want to spend time with each other. Um, and we do want to spend time with each other even when things are hard. So we whether it was like a regular date night or just making sure we're going out to eat together. Uh, when we're both busy, just doing the work together. So we might go to a coffee shop and sit down and might not talk the entire time, but she's doing work. She's a teacher, so she might be planning a lesson or before I was studying for school while I'm uh whatever writing a business plan or something. So a lot of it is just like even when times are hard to making sure to still spend some time with each other, some quality time. And then also having that that just time where like we're not getting distracted by other things too, where you know you put your phone down and Even if you're just watching a movie, you just make sure you're actually present with each other.
I definitely find that. I mean, um, especially with myself, just finding time is a huge thing. When I'm rushing around with my head cut off, and the lady's like, "When are we gonna spend time this week?" and I'm like, "I don't know." But it's about finding a time for each other. That's the first biggest thing. So yeah, definitely agree with you there.
When you don't have the time for each other, like right now, for example, my schedule is complete opposite from hers. So she teaches during the day, and my restaurant opens at 5. So I work when she's not working. So we know we have a day, maybe a day and a half a week that we might get to see each other. But other than that, we still make sure to try to talk on the phone for like a couple minutes at least, so we can spend some time together. Or just to kind of keep each other updated throughout the day, like how the day is going, maybe. Um, or we might have a half-hour gap in her lunch break. So I'll go drive towards her school or whatever, and we go get lunch for half an hour. So just finding the little amount of time that you can still, so that like connection kind of remains, so it doesn't like fade away.
One thing I've had to learn listen recently is when my lady comes to me with a problem, instead of giving her the solution, she hates when I give her the solution. She fucking can't stand it. She can't stand it. She just says, when I'm bitching, I just want you to listen. So that's what I'm working on. That's the relationship goal that I'm working on, is just listening.
That's something I need to work on too. So
She doesn't like solutions, no.
no, no, I like giving solutions, but sometimes that's not what's needed. That's something I'm working on too.
Mm. When she does start to get a little cranky, not crazy, cranky, um, what are the best distractions to help get her off your case?
Oh, I just feed her.
Just feed her. That's a really good one, you know?
It's the same thing for me too. If I'm cranky, usually I just need to be fed. It's either food or sleep. As funny as it is, it kind of comes down to the same things as like with the baby. And I'm the exact same way. If I'm cranky, I either need to go to sleep. I need to work it out, like maybe go to the gym, or jump in a cold shower or something. Or the most likely scenario, 9 times out of 10, I need to be fed. And I think my girlfriend kind of operates in a similar manner. She's stressed out. She has a lot on her plate, but like when she like kind of sits down and actually eats or has a minute, then or gets like a good sleep, then she's not mad about the same thing anymore. Just kind of looks at the same problem differently. So if she is in a bad mood, my go-to move would be I immediately see if she wants to get food. Is usually how I work. Because most problems are not problems anymore once you're fed.
You're not yourself when you're hungry, just like the Snickers commercial. When she starts to get mad, you got to hide behind your offering of Chipotle, you know?
Yeah, well, something that would normally put you to like a 2 or 3, even 10 out of anger might put you to a 7 or something. And if you can dial it back to a 2 or a 3, then you could probably look at the problem a little differently. Or you could just like be more optimistic about it, and you're able to get through it. So a lot of it is just, yeah. Or sometimes she just needs to get out of her system. So you just, like you said, you got let that don't offer the solution and let them go off.
Let them go off. Yeah. For the last question today, I know you kind of touched on this a little bit more. I was just wondering if you could expand it. How do you find time to balance your relationship and work?
Yeah, I've gotten a lot better at it lately. This was probably one of my in previous relationships was one of the worst things I was worse for, because even when I wasn't working, I was on my phone working or on my computer working. So I was never present, and well, not never, but like it was one of the biggest problems in my previous relationships, was that I was never present. So it's something that I really focused on going into this relationship. It's still something I'm working on. I'm not going to pretend to be perfect, but I do know that I'm getting better at it, and that I have been significantly better in this relationship than previous relationships. I think the best way is to have like clear boundaries or time when you're working. So, um, she knows when I'm working, whether I'm actually physically at work or have work to do before, or running errands or whatever before work, to pick up the liquor or whatever needs to be picked up before I go to work. Um, but then I always like try to make sure that when I have time off, some of that time is spent with her. and that each time of the day, if she's available, then I'll try to make time to either talk on the phone or not. So it's really like putting a boundary on work and then kind of realizing what your priorities are. Like I work because I want to create a good life for my girlfriend and I. But I can't create a good life for my girlfriend and I if I don't have a good relationship with my girlfriend. So as much as I want to work, and I could possibly be working 24/7 if I wanted to, but the relationship still needs to be the priority. And it doesn't need to be the time priority necessarily, but it might need to be the effort priority, or vice versa. Maybe it depends on your partner. But so I just make sure that the time I spend with her, I'm as present as possible. I do my best to put my phone away. I do my best to let her know that I'm like there for her. And I do my best to be available when I know she'll be available, so that because we're both busy, we try to find those gaps where the gaps actually line up. And if I know she has a gap, I'll try to make sure that my gap in my schedule lines up with her too. So I might be able to take an hour break in my workday. Maybe because I might be able to make that break at 11 a.m. and I might be able to make it at 3 p.m. or 6 p.m., whatever it is. I'll take the gap where she's free. So yeah, prioritizing, being present. Yeah.
Well, men, you heard it. Boundaries are absolutely healthy in relationships. You cannot manage a relationship without boundaries. If you have needs that you need, say it. What's the worst thing that can happen? Someone says no. That's it. Nick, you're a good man. You're a great friend. And thank you for jumping on Heartless Chat with us today. I wish you all the success in your future and all the endeavors that you have coming forward. I'm going to have to stop in at the Commonwealth, definitely on my next visit to Winnipeg.
I appreciate it. Thanks for having me. It was a good time.
I know the ops, man, I'm getting money and I'm flexing.